A top 10 clash in the lightweight division headlines UFC Austin, Texas this coming weekend. The number 4 ranked Beneil Dariush versus the number 8 ranked Arman Tsarukyan. What's on the line? Title shot, dare I say? Let's talk about it. The 34-year-old, 22-fight UFC veteran Beneil Dariush, number 4 in the world at 155 pounds, versus the 27-year-old, 9-fight UFC veteran, coming in winning 4 of his last 5, both of which have done this. You look at that left side here, Beneil Dariush had won 8 fights in a row prior to losing to Charles Oliveira in June of this year. And it had felt like, around the time when number 5 and 6 of that streak was occurring for Benny, he should have been in a title shot opportunity, and he just never got it. So what did he do? He kept winning. He beat Diego Ferreira. He beat Tony Ferguson. He destroyed Matos Gamrot, dominated that fight with Matos Gamrot, someone who has a win over Arman Tsarukyan. Is there MMA math related to this? No, you guys know how MMA math works, but still, to get huge wins over so many prominent names over a prolonged period of time. We're even talking Drew Dober and Thiago Moises at the beginning of this win streak. These are solid wins, but when he got to the fight where it was, all right, Beneil, this time you really will get a title shot if you beat Charles Oliveira. What happens? He loses in 4 minutes. He gets knocked out by Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira establishes himself as the guy outside of Islam Makhachev at 155 pounds. And he was going to get his second crack at Islam had he not been injured in October. We since have seen what has happened with the lightweight division. Islam Makhachev is the reigning champion. He just knocked out Alexander Volkanovski and is now 2-0 over the featherweight GOAT. And Islam Makhachev is sitting atop the lightweight throne, just kind of waiting for new challengers. Now, it seems pretty clear that Charles will get the rematch early-ish. I guess it's kind of not necessarily early because we do have a main event in January, February, and March. So April, which is UFC 300, would be the earliest that we would see Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev 2. Now, if Beneil beats Arman Tsarukyan here, I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to get a title shot. Like I was saying off the top, it's at least worth mentioning for one half of this fight, though, and I think that is Arman Tsarukyan. If Arman can beat Beneil Dariush, launch himself into the top 5, I think there is a world where he does not have to beat anyone else before getting a title shot. I think I view it as Islam versus Charles 2 will take place at some point next year. The winner of that could easily face Arman Tsarukyan next. I feel like the only name that can throw a wrench into that kind of pipeline would be the BMF title holder right now, Justin Gaethje. But it seems unclear about what's going to happen with him. He definitely has an argument to be put in for a title shot next, but Dana White seems to be pretty heavily leaning toward the Oliveira and Makhachev 2 rematch. So Arman could kind of maybe sneak his way in, especially if we see Justin Gaethje do another BMF title fight during this kind of lull for the rest of the lightweight division. There's not a ton of big fights booked atop the top 10 rankings right now. There's another big fight on this card, but it's between number 12 and number 13, Turner and Green. They've got a ways to go before being in title discussion. So this one right here is kind of spearheading, the next year of the lightweight division and the title challenger discussion. You add in the fact that Arman arguably only has one loss in the UFC, and that is to the current champion, Islam Makhachev, and that was in Arman's UFC debut. That fight with Gamrot, a loss is a loss, right? I understand that. But it was a razor thin fight that he had. One of the best fights of 2022, if you ask me. I thought it was an incredible fight, an incredible main event that Noah and I were so happy to see get spotlighted like it did. And he's since racked off 2 straight wins since that loss, dominated Damir Ismagulov, had a bit of a scare in his fight with Joaquim Silva, who's also on this card. He did get a finish in the 3rd round, however, That one, though, kind of came on very short notice. Silva, obviously not who Arman was training with. He caught him with a really good shot in that fight. But outside of that, Arman looked very good and ended it emphatically with a finish and a knockout. This is a very fun fight, too, on paper in terms of the styles. Beneil Dariush, really both of these guys are so well rounded. Beneil leans more to the grappling if he really has to guarantee success, I should say, because he'll get into a firefight. Look at his fight with Drakkar Close. He had to come back from the depths of defeat and got a huge knockout there. He has power. He can strike, but the bread and butter can be on the ground for Beneil. That's how he beat Tony Ferguson. That's pretty much how he beat Gamrot, on top of knocking him down on the feet. So like I said, he has the power. He has the striking. But Arman's I would say, a level up. And not in a disrespectful way, but Arman is just that elite. And he just has such a great all-around skill set. And even against Gamrot, where Gamrot was looking to wrestle, and that's where he had the success, Arman didn't get taken down that often. He didn't look like he just was a fish out of water with the grappling, and on the feet, he's just a special guy. And let us not get mistaken here. When he's on top of you, just ask Joel Alvarez how nasty and dangerous Arman Tsarukyan is on the ground as well as on the feet. So I look for this to be very entertaining. I can't envision a world where Beneil puts on a performance like he did against Tony, where he can just kind of hold Arman down and not let him up. I can't see that being possible for Beneil. Beneil may have to get down and dirty in this fight to have a little bit more success, and Arman has to be a little bit more careful because Beneil will throw the big shots. And if Joaquim Silva can land, I'm sure that Beneil Dariush can also land on Arman. But if Arman can stay clean defensively, he can really have a breakout performance. I feel like the Joel Alvarez fight was a big performance for Arman, but in the grand scheme of things, Alvarez is still a relatively unknown to a bigger audience. Beneil, while yes, is the least known of the top five in the lightweight division, he definitely has a larger reach of the fight game. People recognize Beneil. People know how good that Beneil Dariush is. If Arman can come in here in this main event and have a big showing, it can go a long, long way. Am I predicting that he gets a win here, Arman, and gets right into a title fight? Not necessarily, but I do genuinely think, as I said at the beginning, there's a world where he could, and especially if Islam Makhachev can retain against Charles Oliveira, assuming that's the fight that happens next, and they get another rematch opportunity, this time between Arman and Islam. That's a very intriguing matchup. Name value wise, Arman compared to a Justin Gaethje fight, nowhere near as big, of course, and I understand that. But if Gaethje stays tied up into the BMF and kind of big fight, money fights circus right now, Arman could find his way in around the middle of 2024, maybe the tail end, assuming, Islam stays on the same kind of schedule of early 2024 and then once in October or November of 2024. But I'm absolutely amped for this fight. This is a great main event slot. It's a phenomenal fight night card that they're getting in Austin, Texas. So I'm very much looking forward to this fight. Beneil can kind of prove some doubters wrong. Maybe after that Oliveira loss, people are kind of halting the hype. Maybe they don't quite believe in Beneil like they once did. So he can really put a stamp here and show that he's still hanging around. He's here to stay. He's here to get that title shot that he's been fighting to get for so many years now. And Arman is one win away from finally, after what feels like a very long time, putting himself where I and a lot of other people feel he belongs. And that is in the top five. That is in the lightweight title discussion. This is still a guy that at 27 years old, I feel will hold the lightweight championship or just a UFC championship in general before his fight career is over. So let me know what you think about this fight. What are your predictions? Do you think Beneil can bounce back, right the ship, and get back into the win column? Or is it too little too late? He wasn't able to get that title fight when he had the momentum. Is it too hard now for him to get back into that position? Will Arman get the biggest win of his career and catapult himself into the legitimate title challenger discussion, maybe even in his very next fight. Time will tell, but give me all your predictions in the comments below. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed the breakdown. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss fight breakdowns, fight recaps, MMA news, and fight announcements, everything in between. And I will catch you all in the next video. Enjoy the fights and have a great weekend. Deuces.